When you've got a hankering for cookies, what's the first cookie that you're gonna think of this holiday season? I don't know if it's gonna be molasses crinkles or not, but that's definitely something that I thought of because I still had a lot of molasses left over from when I made the crepes back over the summer. And who knows, maybe in the future I'll make some molasses crinkles cookies. I had that whole jar of molasses. So I said in that video that I was maybe gonna make molasses crinkles, and that's just the recipe on the jar, to be honest, but it's something special because a molasses cookie tastes like nothing else. You've got my 3 favorite friends, ginger, clove, and cinnamon, that I put in literally everything. All of these things that I like to put them in. And it's just these warm, cozy flavors plus molasses. And that's something that brown sugar definitely has the essence of, but then you're gonna put that molasses liquid sugar basically in there. So what we're gonna do today on Sweetly Savory is make the classic molasses crinkle. And in honor of National Ugly Sweater Day, which is today, December 17th, I've got mine on. We're gonna be baking cookies. We're gonna be looking like a snack. We're gonna be eating snacks. It's all wonderful and holiday delicious tastiness today on Sweetly Savory. So what you're gonna need for these deliciously seasonal cookies is 3/4 cup of shortening or butter. These things can be interchangeable, but shortening is 100% vegetable oil, whereas butter is made out of dairy. So if you're looking for a dairy-free alternative so that you don't have to take anything with your cookies like me, I am gonna go with a shortening for this one. 1 cup light brown sugar. I could only find dark brown sugar at the grocery store, so that's what I'm gonna be using today. It's got a little bit more of a molassesy essence to it, whereas light brown sugar doesn't have that, but we'll see how it turns out. I'm sure it's gonna be super delicious. 1 egg, not beaten, but just mixed in with everything. 1/4 cup of molasses, the star of the show. 2/4 cup flour. Now you can use all-purpose flour, that's what I'm gonna be using. I wouldn't use like a bread flour or anything fancy for this. It's just a cookie, so you want an all-purpose for all your baking. 2 teaspoons baking soda. Baking soda is the one you're gonna want this time, not baking powder, baking soda, because you want the chemical reaction of baking soda and not baking powder, which does the leavening. Baking soda is gonna be just a little bit of rise and work with everything else that you've got going on in your cookie. 1/4 teaspoon salt. I'm gonna go with the flaked sea salt or kosher salt as opposed to table salt. You can definitely use regular table salt, but I'm gonna use the big flaky one. 1/2 teaspoon clove, 1 whole teaspoon cinnamon, and a whole teaspoon of ginger. Now that you've got all of your ingredients together, why don't you take a hot second to like this video down below and make sure to subscribe to Sweetly Savory, because otherwise you're not going to know when deliciously tasty fun things are going to be coming out on the tube. Then we can get all of these things in the bowl. I had an extra cup of coffee tonight so I could stay awake and bake these cookies because they've got to chill also for about an hour, preferably 2, I guess, or overnight if you're so inclined and ambitious. But I'm going to be mixing this together and then sticking it in the freezer for about an hour, because that's about how much energy this Energizer Bunny is going to have. So let's go ahead and get our ingredients in the bowl where everybody's going to mingle in the pot, if you will. So I've got 2 implements here. Clearly I've got a fork and a spoon. I'm thinking the spoon to mix everything together, but the fork I'm going to use initially to beat the egg in my bowl. Let's go ahead and crack this guy open. We've got our egg going in the big bowl here. Our shortening mess looking thing. Now shortening, I just keep on the shelf and it's softened, but butter you would want to take out of the fridge like an hour or two before you're going to use it, and that's for any recipe that you're going to use softened butter for. And we got our brown sugar here. And molasses. That I'm going to add in a moment so I can get these three things incorporated. Arm day again in the Perry kitchen. So we've mixed our shortening, our egg, and our light brown or dark brown sugar together, and it's come together fairly well. You can see a little bit of like chunks of the shortening in there, and I think that's going to be fine. I've kind of creamed it as best as possible. I'm going to go ahead and add my molasses, and the molasses is going to turn it real dark. Now the secret to the crinkle part of this cookie is going to be rolling them out, the dough balls out in sugar, and then putting like 2 to 3 drops of water on it, and the chemical reaction when you go to bake it, they're going to have this crinkle effect, which is super cool. And I didn't actually know that until I was rereading this recipe, and I thought it was going to be some special thing that you had to do, but I guess that's as special as it gets. Now that we've got everything here together, let's go ahead and add our dry ingredients. We've got our 2 1/4 cup flour, which I'm going to add in little by little, because you don't want to overload your wet ingredients and get a giant clump mess or a flour cloud.
Did you know you can start like a massive fire with flour because of a flour cloud?
Yes, I did.
So it's super flammable.
Mm-hmm. Now this particular recipe is going to yield 4 dozen cookies, and you can certainly trim this back if you want to, if it's just your small family or yourself, but I'm making the full 4 dozen for my ugly sweater party.
So why do you just want to do half hour?
One hour.
1 hour, sorry.
Well, I want to try out a quick method so that if you're short on time but you need some cookies, you have a bit of a quicker option. But also, I've got a lot of other things to do for this party. We gotta make some pizza dough for our famous chicken nugget pizza. We gotta have food for when the guests arrive, because that's just the perfect way to entertain.
Did you all know it was the ancient Greeks that invented the hospitality rules? And that's what the story behind Odysseus and the Cyclops is. The Cyclops was a bad host. So, to the ancient Greeks, if you're a bad host, you didn't deserve life. Or in the Cyclops' eye, his eye, because they couldn't kill him because he was bigger. But anyway, that's like the origination of some of the hospitality.
So we've got our flour fully incorporated. Let's go ahead and add our aromatics. We've got our clove and our ginger. please don't break the camera. Our cinnamon and our baking soda. Now, one would assume the idea of having this chill in the fridge for all that time is to have the flavors marry and come together. It's just the same, probably the same reason why we let our cookie dough sit for at least 30 minutes. So that everything can come together.
It's also to let the butter re-solidify a little bit.
Oh.
Well, because think about it, if you make cookie dough, because you just made it with melted butter,
True.
it's just gonna fall apart. So you let it sit. Yeah, the flavors do meld, and that's awesome. But there's a practical reason also, and the butter re-solidifies some, and makes your life a hell of a lot easier.
And as you can clearly see in our dough now, all that shortening has finally come together with the flour and the rest of the dry ingredients. So you don't have those little white pockets in there anymore. And that'll yield a nice smooth cookie. Smooth but crinkle cookie, if you will. Woo!
Now, something you didn't know is Evan actually does not like these type of cookies.
Too bad. We're making them and they're not for you. No cookies for you, Evan! So we're gonna go ahead and chill this dough for at least an hour. I'm gonna stick it in the freezer so that we can try to get a quick method on this. And that'll be enough time for you, if you have not already yet today, subscribe to Sweetly Savory and like this video down in the description below. And make sure to also check me out on Instagram where you can see just a little bit more, sometimes behind the scenes stuff. So make sure to check me out and follow me along. So if you will, let's go to the freezer and pop this bad boy in. 1 hour later and our bowl is extremely cold. Let's go ahead and take a look at this dough. So it's fairly solid. And I'd say that's pretty good. It's solidified, but it's not rock hard, which I think is what you're going to be aiming for. But what we're really looking for right now is the shortening to re-solidify and you have a better result with your cookie. So I'm going to go ahead and use my famous little cookie scoop. And yeah, that comes out real nice. I am going to do these in a little ball shape. Just roll it around the palm of my hand. I don't want to get it too warm, but just enough. And I got my little tiny bowl of sugar here, and it's probably a few tablespoons of sugar. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on my cookie tray here and a couple splashes of water. The water doesn't really go on the cookie, it's kind of going everywhere else, but you know what? It'll be okay. Let's speed this up some. Started to wonder if they were supposed to be about half the size that I've made them, and I think they are, because they're supposed to be about walnut size like I had said, and I've made them a little bit too big. That's okay. Cookies, Got 40 here on my baking tray, and I have a feeling that I should probably spread these out a little bit more. I don't want them to get too crammed because, you know, cookies do expand sometimes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and split these onto another baking tray. These will bake for about 10 to 12 minutes. You don't want to bake them any more than that. Let's go ahead and get these into the oven, and we will be back in that time. Definitely glad that I had spaced out these cookies because they did grow quite a bit. So you can see that they're a little bit unevenly sized, but you know what? That's quite all right because they definitely are going to taste good. I don't really have any means to set them down right now. Here we are. So that was 10 minutes in the oven, and they did spread out pretty well. I'm really glad that I had split them up. The other half, or the other portion that I had saved on a different cookie tray, that's currently sitting in the fridge. I didn't want them to like spread out way too much because, like Evan had said, if you let them sit out for too long or you just bake them right away, then the shortening or your butter is not going to have the same effect as what you think it's going to be. The butter is just going to spread all for the cookie and not have a cookie. Okie dokie. Oh yeah. This hysterically huge spatula is perfect for peeling off cookies. And it's okay if they've stuck together because they'll just break apart and still be wonderful. Ta-da! I'm going to go ahead and try one of these. That's one of these smaller guys. Now they definitely have the distinct little crinkles in them. You can see the little crinkles in the cookie. Ooh. So when these first came out of the oven, they were pretty soft, and now they're starting to harden up a little bit. So over time, they will get nice and crisp, but hopefully they'll stay a little bit softer because, you know, there's just so much sugar in these. You need something a little sweet this time of year. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. This cookie screams Christmas to me. With the cinnamon and the clove and the ginger, everything warm and molassesy. It's just very comforting. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to Sweetly Savory, like this video down in the description, leave any comments, and I do want to let everybody know that the next weekly publication, other than this cookie special, is going to be on Tuesday. That will be the new publication date, Tuesday instead of Sunday. So make sure to ring that notification bell so that you know when the next episode of Sweetly Savory is going to air. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have a safe and happy holiday season. So we'll see you again next time on Sweetly Savory.